Do you suffer from stress, anxiety, or depression? Do you find it hard to focus or to contain your emotions? Any of these things can take you down. So, what then are your personal health practices? If you don't yet have an integral or holistic wellness practice, you're in the right place. Podcast host Susan Axelrod, the confidence coach, has been practicing holistic wellness for 25 years. Along the way, Qigong and Tai Chi found her. After tiptoeing in, she dove into a committed practice and became a teacher and integral wellness consultant. She'll tell you Qigong and Tai Chi changed her life. In this podcast, she interviews practitioners, inviting them to share their stories about how these practices changed their lives too. Go grab your journal. At the top of the clean page, write down, "I want to feel better." Then take a breath and tune in to see if Qigong and Tai Chi can help. Hello, friends. I'm here to tell you, yes, Qigong and Tai Chi can help. How do I know this? Because it has changed my life. That's how this podcast came about. I became a Qigong practitioner. It changed my life. And I wanted to invite other people to share their own stories so that you can know there's a modality out there, a mind-body practice out there that can support you. If you've been watching me, you know that I've been bringing amazing guests to this podcast series, and I'm reading their bios directly so that you can get to know different people who practice Qigong and Tai Chi. Today is going to be an exceptional episode because I'm so excited to be interviewing Dr. Gayl Hubatch. Gayl is a doctor of Chinese medicine for over 35 years. She's also a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist, and she leads Qigong classes online while maintaining a practice in Chinese medicine in Austin, Texas. Dr. Gayl brings a wealth of knowledge and perspective to her courses, which I can affirm because I've taken one. As a certified heart math trainer, she helps people learn efficient ways to heal their nervous system and transform stress. Dr. Gayl believes integrating Eastern and Western medicine is imperative in today's world. She's a diplomat of acupuncture through the NCCAOM and a published author. Her book is called Fabric of the Soul, 8 Extraordinary Vessels, and is available on Amazon. Hello, my friend. Good to see you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for doing this, Susan.
It's truly a pleasure. And I want to say, Gayl, as I have said to all of the other instructors of my practice, I met you through the IIQTC. We call it the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi, under the leadership of Dr. Roger Yanka. And you were one of the instructors of my level 1 certification program.
Yeah.
I loved all of my instructors. I loved meeting you. I loved learning under you. And I think of you now. The one thing that I would say about the way you teach and present is there's a calm that is so, that underlies your entire presentation. The other thing about you as an instructor is it's so judgment-free. Gayl, your style is so, encouraging, like, do it, keep doing it. That's the important thing. So I really, truly, genuinely want to say thank you for your leadership as an instructor.
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's interesting you say that about this, like, just do it and do it, because this weekend I taught a Qigong workshop, and I was reflecting on some of my career. And I realized I've actually been studying and practicing Chinese medicine for 40 years now. And I'm actually okay to say that out loud because it's been my whole adult life. And because I've integrated so much of the wisdom of this tradition in my life, it's really part of my fabric. It's part of me. And so I think that, what you said, it comes across. right? And
It does. And also that is very interesting because it's been, let's see, 3 years, I believe. So even still, 40 minus just 3 years is still an entire life. And I really do know I've been on the mindfulness journey for 25 years. But honestly, Gayl, I'm a fundraiser of 40 years training. So that's in me as well. And so I really do
yeah.
understand that. So tell me, how did you get into this, or how would you say that Qigong and Tai Chi have changed your life?
Well, I'll answer that first question briefly because it's, there is a lot of history here. But I just to say, I've always been interested in how the mind and the body work together. And in college, I studied psychology, but at the time, they didn't really talk about mind body at all. It was before that. Plus, I'm from Chicago, and the Midwest is a little more conservative and slow to change and open to new things. And so it kind of left me with these questions. I moved to Oregon, and that's where I met an acupuncturist who introduced me to Taoist philosophy and Chinese medicine. At the time, I was interested more in the theory and the simple practices of Qigong, which is literally part of Chinese medicine. It's one of the four branches of Chinese medicine. Qigong, acupuncture, herbs, and then a Tui Na, which is like a body mind acupressure style. And so the Qigong quickly like got my attention because the practice was something that anybody could learn and do. And then I'm kind of a sensitive anyway, but I picked up the Qi very easily in when I first started practicing, and I was in my 20s, at the time, and it just was fascinating to me. I was like, well, what is this? And also through the birth of my daughter and just going through that experience, I started to really contemplate chi in a larger way, like the life force energy. And so as I began to embrace the principles through my training, I realized it was completely altering my worldview. And so
Mm.
it, to answer like, how did it change my life? Like it changed everything in my life because instead of just looking at the material world from, you know, um, effort and goals and consequence, I started understanding more of what I call a nature, like the nature of reality, which is our intention. So when we understand our intention is what comes first before our actions, then you can cultivate your mindfulness through intentional practice to really make the life you choose to make and to continue to up level your thoughts. So like today, everybody's faced with more stress with the complexity of the world becoming increasingly, chaotic in many ways and more complex. The technology is, moving so quickly. And I live in Austin, Texas, and right now we have South by Southwest, which is this huge global event that takes place the whole month of March. And the technologists that are here as part of it, there's a technology part, music and film. And I was fortunate to go to a panel the other day about AI. And we had a representative from the Department of Energy, and we had a brigadier general, and then this company that my fiance works for, which is they're building data centers. And they were talking about AI, and I'm bringing this in because it's relevant for today's world, and also it just still like very fresh in me. And I heard them, speak about how if whoever owns AI owns the truth, somebody said. I mean, consider that for a moment. It scared me
Yeah.
because I thought, well, that, is not true for me, first of all, because I know my own truth, and I'm at this stage of life where I've had enough life experience to like understand and integrate and put things together for, what to me is my truth. How many people can say they know their truth? But now we're getting fed with all this information. Chat GPT answers your question, and right away we believe, well, that's the truth. And
Right.
so the statement of whoever owns AI owns the truth is a true statement. But how is that going to affect our lives? So let's circle back to Qigong and Tai Chi, because here's the key benefit that I've gleaned from a lot of years of practice. It gets us in touch with what's inside of us in a essential and original way. So when we have, and the principles are based on original chi, that's the subject of my book, Fabric of the Soul, is, we came into life very innocent. We have patterning from our past, but we're also patterned from our environment. And then as we grow consciously, we can maybe discard some of the beliefs that don't serve us or adopt new ones, right? We change and grow and mature. When a person practices Qigong and Tai Chi, first of all, you get in touch with your breath, which is essential force of how we move energy in the body, and how we can regulate our nervous system, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a moment. So when we get in touch with our breath, we have a connection to our power, because that's an essential piece of knowing yourself, like being able to breathe. When you breathe deeply and slowly, like Qigong and Tai Chi teaches us, automatically your nervous system relaxes. The sympathetic, that flight or fight response, starts to calm down or wane, and the parasympathetic starts to raise and emerge. And the parasympathetic is part of the relaxation response, but it's more than that. It doesn't make you sleepy, it makes you more alert, actually. Because as those systems now are balanced and they start to regulate up and down, then the stream of energy between our brain and our heart becomes more clear, less disconnected, like more intentional.
Yeah.
So here we go with intention, right? So then when we know, okay, well, I have an intention to either just learn to relax today, or maybe be very productive today, but in a way that is not stressful for my body, because nobody wants those stress hormones fighting against us, right? We all want to live well and age with grace, so to speak, right? Age well, feel good, have our joints be flexible, live without pain. And that's huge. And Qigong and Tai Chi are systems that are easy to learn, easy to practice. It just takes consistency. But when we can prioritize ourselves and this aspect of a holistic life, or a life built around wellness, then we feel better and we can enjoy life more. So, so much of the West is goal oriented. We all want these things. I love luxury. I love comforts. I like space around me. I like all these certain things, and it costs money.
Yeah.
And, but I've learned through my, just getting stressed in my life, and I treat patients all the time that, have a lot of stress in their life. And it's so clear that when you don't feel well, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're wearing or what you own, right? You just want to feel well and happy and excited. And that's got to be a number one priority is our health.
Yeah.
So this system is great to build stronger health.
It's so good. It's happened literally, I think, every episode where I want to invite our viewers or our listeners to pause for a moment, take a breath, and possibly even already rewind for 10 minutes, put it on 1.5 times if you need, and really listen to what Gayl just drew out for us. And again, this is a lifetime of experience leading to high expertise. The idea of what you said, being in charge of ourselves, you said it completely altered your worldview. I come from an overachieving Jewish family background. So it wasn't the Midwest with the conservative thing that you said, but overachieving, right? And so the efforts, goals, and consequence you said. So I'm 100% a living, breathing example of the same, of everything that you just talked out. What came up for me as you were talking, Gayl, is I'm very sort of concerned to the point of almost being consumed with our young professionals. When you said, whoever owns AI owns the truth, that's not our discussion today. It is an interesting discussion,
Yeah.
but for our young professionals, this moment right now can be their truth. And I want to say that very clearly, what you just shared with us, what you just talked out with us, the way that you talked about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Qigong and Tai Chi are easy to learn, easy to practice, do need to be prioritized. And then the holistic life you said built around wellness. I can't say how important this is. Something that came up for me is interoception, Gayl.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that for a moment, I think that's important here.
Yeah, that is what we're talking about, is the ability to perceive from the inside. Intero means internal, so inside. So when we and let's just for a moment do a little qigong. It's so simple. So if you just sit and align yourself, just notice like how you're sitting, and then coming into breath. So long little breath, a little longer and slower than normal, perhaps, is all it takes. And if you regulate the inhale and exhale, so for example, let's count to 3 or 4 as you inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once more, inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 2. This easy, regulated breath begins to align the body and the mind. It begins to bring your perception into your chest, your lungs and heart, begins to awaken internal perception, your interoception, noticing, oh, well, maybe, the chest is a little tight, or maybe I'm tensing my back. Okay, let's just relax that. It's as simple as that. Like just noticing your body is a form of interoception because your body is speaking to you. It's telling you, oh, I just need to perhaps exhale, a little longer. with a little sigh. And these are Qigong practices that we do, right? It's simple. And then there's forms, that have developed over time that help to build this body mind intelligence. And once you practice and have this body mind intelligence awakened in you, then these simple breath patterns turn it back on right away.
I mean, I'm telling you, I cannot say, Gayl, some people know me, some people don't know anything about me. I was a living type A for decades of my life. I had an emotional meltdown in my mid to late 30s from that. And from there, I got on a different path. And that led to eventually, which is why I've done this series, finding Qigong in the way that it's being taught. I had learned some of the practices. As soon as you said, let's go into the breathing pattern, because I have a developed practice of this, I immediately, just like you literally just said, it kind of kicked in for me. And
Right.
so again, I want to invite people to go back for a second, listen to Gayl counting out that breathing, and do that. Do that for a minute.
Just do that. And this is what brings about our intuition. It helps stimulate our intuitive center, and it helps us become more intentional in life. Because now, like before, maybe you have a big project you want to launch, and it's exciting, right? And sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm feeling stressed, but that stress and excitement are really the same energy. Yeah. It's kind of how we label it. And so if you label it, oh, okay, I'm excited about this. I feel my heart, racing, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna launch this thing. Well, that's wonderful, because all that energy is created from your passion. And to smooth that passion, like to smooth that excitement / stress, which tends to be a little bit rough or fiery, we might say, just come into a regulated breath pattern. Just the inhale and exhale the same amount, like the 4, 5, 6. That's a simple breath pattern. There are other breath patterns that develop more of the parasympathetic, but this episode is not about breath. We could do another episode about that.
I do actually. Dr. Oli Smith did do a practice episode on breath. I have that also in this series.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I
want to
love
say, oh my gosh. So helps to stimulate your intuitive center, you said.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know that, but I am the example of that all those years that I was in that sort of type A, intuition was sort of blocked, maybe, if that's the right way to say it. It was on the outside.
That light was dimmed because you were working from a different part of your brain.
And then when I had my breakdown, that led to my breakthrough.
Right.
And then eventually I found an energy therapist, though she didn't call it Qigong, but she taught me these things. Yeah. I can only say how real and true I am the living. My intuition completely must have broken through that dimming and then rose. I call it rising.
Turned it on, right? This is our sixth chakra, right? And it relates to the pineal and pituitary gland. And so when we awaken, if you don't mind me using that term, or stimulate or turn on that center, then those glands literally start to work more efficiently. The pineal can secrete neurohormones, whereas before it might have been just quiet, right? So we start to awaken. So it happens chemically in our brains. And then through the regulation of chi, which is innate within us, it's just part of our intelligence, our body mind intelligence. We awaken that in a kind of accelerated way, then things start really moving in life, right? It changes. That's what changes life.
From the minute I got involved with the IIQTC, one of the reasons I think it spoke to me was because Roger actually talks science. Like you're speaking science now, so I love that. And
I'm a
it,
science nerd. I love science. I'm listening to science podcasts. I read. Yeah, it's
Same. I've been studying just in the last 4 years. I've been studying neuroscience and neurology in conjunction with my practice. I wanted
mm,
to just, before we end, we just have a few more minutes. Um, I wrote down that you said it was with the birth of my daughter
yeah.
that you really contemplated chi as a life force energy. And
Hmm.
I really, really loved that. And some of us are long beyond a birth stage, and some of us are not, will never have a birth of that sort. And some of us are early before we could even imagine it. But I love this idea of contemplating chi as a life force energy. I think that I want our viewers and listeners to see and hear and feel this in Gayl and in me. And I
Yeah.
really love this.
Yeah. I'll just say a little bit more about that. And part of it was, I was maybe younger. I was in my early 20s when my daughter was born, and that probably impacted how I experienced that birth. But given that, when a mother starts feeling those contractions, I was already studying metaphysics and Taoism, and I started like recognizing, okay, this is energy beyond my control. This is completely involuntary, right? And I just took it as waves of energy. I decided I'm just going to feel this as energy, and so I didn't have resistance, and that's really key. If you don't have resistance, it's not pain, it's intensity. And if you
Mm.
can allow that intensity to move through, it it took me into the stars. I mean, I had a beautiful experience. It was a natural birth, and I was lucky that I could do it that way. It totally opened my idea of the cosmos. I literally saw planets and stars. Like it expanded me in a way that I just, it's just an amazing.
Well,
I'm
I
really,
love the idea that you're introducing here of reducing resistance.
yeah,
Reducing resistance. I mean, I had a natural birth, not because it was planned, but because that was God's plan, I guess, by the time I got there. It was like, for me, it was painful. But those were way before these days. I was in my old body and mind then.
yeah,
But I love what you're teaching us here about this idea of resistance. And I use this as the visual, one hand facing me and the other hand facing away, as my
mm,
visual for resistance, right?
mm.
As opposed to either both hands going out together or coming in more of a flow state. Um, I want to ask you if you might be willing to do a very special episode, an additional episode on how you teach the organs. Gayl also is a course instructor. She has courses. I've taken
Yeah,
courses, and
yeah,
that's one of the areas that we haven't really touched on in this podcast. Would you be willing to do that?
yeah, of course, yeah. In
Okay,
fact,
good.
this workshop I just taught was on the five element organ meridian system. So yeah,
Right.
very fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. So I'll offline, I'll get that set up with you, and then we'll do that, because another thing that I'm doing through this podcast series is introducing people to different aspects. Like Oli did the 4 practice sessions with the breath, the meditation, the self massage, and the body movement.
Oh,
And Jessica Colby did a special session on healing sounds,
nice.
and you're the person I think of when I think about the meridians and the organs. So I'll get in touch with you. Well, Gayl, this is so great. I want to thank you for your time. How can people get in touch with you?
So the best way is through email, and the email that I use most commonly is gaylhub@gmail.com. So that's GAYLHUB@gmail.com. I did want to just mention my book, Fabric of the Soul, Eight
Yeah.
Extraordinary Vessels, is on Amazon.com. If you're interested in that, it's based on these part of this discussion about original chi and then developmental cycles of life. And then I just wanted to also mention another project you may not be aware of, Susan, that Corey Ward Cook and I are doing on leadership. So we're building a Chi leadership course uh, that's going to be online streaming, and it can be purchased. It's geared for acupuncturists, but we're creating the system so that even lay people or anybody can gain a lot of great ideas and practices and understand how to facilitate leadership in your life by understanding your own chi, by becoming more intentional, awakening intuition, and these things. So you become the leader within, we might say.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I interviewed Corey. I'm all about that with her. I've spoken to her quite extensively about how to
Okay.
incorporate this, not with acupuncturists, but with all leaders. I
Yeah.
have studied Dr. Richard Schwartz and the internal family systems, and he teaches about self leadership. And so, no, I'll get the information. We'll be putting your book and the course, whatever links you want, into the podcast notes. And then I share these things freely, liberally, and encourage people to, click and buy, click and participate, watch, view, listen, and rinse and repeat. So thank you. I didn't know that. I want to wish you the very best with that.
Thank you
Good.
so
All right. So I'm going to be in touch with you very soon. And I can't wait already. So thank you so much for your time today and for
much.
sharing your wisdom with us.
Pleasure. It's great to see you again. And
You
thanks
too.
for doing this for the world. We need it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye, everybody.